Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. We are at the ETSI NFV event number 13. We are in Dublin in Ireland. We are in Croke Park, which is the headquarters of the Gaelic Athletics Association, and we are in their big, very, very nice boardroom with a table like something from Excalibur. Anyway, I'm talking with Mark Lamb, who is Senior Technical Marketing Engineer at Cobham Wireless.
Thank you, Martyn, and welcome to Dublin.
Thank you very much indeed. I love being here. Now, Cobham Wireless are actually sponsoring this particular ETSI number 14, the event itself. Before anybody asks outside, remember this is going out around the world, just tell us very, very quickly what Cobham Wireless actually does.
Okay, so Cobham Wireless is a test and measurement company, and we provide connectivity solutions to carriers and NEMs to understand about robustness, reliability in their product and obviously their services.
Good. Succinct to the point. Now then, we're here talking about NFV. You remember as well as I do all the fuss and bother there was when NFV came out. You know, this new technology is going to change the world. There were the proofs of concept, there were the field trials and so on. But now we're getting little niggles here and there. We've had several around in the past months, mainly from vendors, it must be said, not necessarily so much from the service provider's point of view, saying, well, we thought it would be quicker than this. We thought NFV would be rolled out there by now, and it's not. It's slow and it's partial and it's not really happening as a commercial reality yet. Is it taking longer than expected? And if so, why? Is it because service providers are just being that bit more cautious than people thought they might be?
It's certainly an interesting question, and we have to actually look at what's in the marketplace today. Everybody claims to be somewhat NFV or virtualized, you know. So from a carrier's perspective, then they have to actually weed through all that noise and understand, is it viable, is it reliable? So even if you look at, and like we've heard a lot today and yesterday in the ETSI sessions, a lot about working with the open source communities. So if you look at that, and as a carrier, like I have to understand, if I invest in a particular open source framework, or invest in my people to be part of that open framework, will the people that are actually core in those communities still be there tomorrow? So there is a certain amount of cautiousness, but also I think a lot of the tier 1 carriers are progressing. So they do believe this will advance. And they certainly, if you look at the number of publicly announced publicly announced ecosystems within the carriers, there is a lot of progression. So as a vendor of a test measurement solution, we're certainly confident that the carriers are progressing in time, let's say.
So it's not really late and it's not really slow. It's just that it's a complicated business. There's a lot to do, yes, and it's being done.
Yeah, and you have to also take a step back, and we've heard a lot of things happening in the industry, or even on our networks today, about security. A very good example is here in Dublin recently. One of the lottery systems was brought down by denial of service attack. And if you look at how we're building these frameworks, and you look at the open source community, there's a lot of intellectual knowledge and property there that could expose carriers to the future. So it's certainly a lot to take on board, and we have to get this right. Otherwise we'll be continuously going into this loop for the rest of our days in terms of networking.
Thank you. Now, manufacturers have been collaborating and partnering in the build out of big open vendor ecosystems in the past few years. If you remember again, when the first ETSI specs and the first documents came out, it was larded with mentions of ecosystem here, ecosystem there. Have those ecosystems developed and mutated and evolved since the early days of NFV at ETSI? And if so, how have they changed?
Yeah, Cobham Wireless, we're part of the first, proof of concept. Like we worked within the cloud NFV, it was ETSI POC number 1, for example. And at that time, it was actually quite innovative in terms of trying to prove out the architecture that was there. But what I noticed personally from being involved from the very beginning is we certainly have to look at the types of ecosystems that we have. So we have, on one hand, the large ecosystems that are more about a marketing and brand awareness, and inside that, and it kind of relates to your first question, Martyn, to me was, there's a lot of noise in that. So what's real and what's viable has to be looked at. But then if you look at the more specialized ecosystems where they are actually looking to prove, the viability and reliability of product, it is a case that, the two probably do play in together, but from a carrier's perspective, the technical ecosystem is probably where they should be looking at.
Right. NFV, again, has been presented to the world as a technology which is overarching and complete. It is what it is. We know what NFV is. It works in the cloud, it's all IP, SDN running alongside and all the rest of it. And it's been presented as this globally applicable technology for network operators and carriers. And then we've heard suddenly about carrier-grade NFV. Well, surely there can't be any difference between NFV and carrier-grade NFV, because if it's not carrier-grade, it's not NFV by definition.
Yeah, I guess if we look at the challenges we face, right, in terms of reliability and robustness, carrier-grade, for us as end users or consumers of the service, maybe I could pose the question back to you. Would you be happy if your mobile service keeps dropping in and out? I think both of us would say no, and we would move to another service provider. So understanding, yes, we have all this technology, understanding that we have open source communities helping us and enabling us to move and progress faster inside NFV, but understanding that carrier grade means it has to deliver the terabits of data that's already there. And then if you take it one step back from a carrier's perspective, they're now trying to do that on a virtualized function inside an off-the-shelf hardware. So the challenges they do face, and the distinction we have to make is there is NFV, we can all turn up an NFV framework, but to deliver a service that's reliable, it certainly has to be aimed or pitched as carrier NFV.
So it's the same sort of level of performance, reliability, quality of service that you would expect if you just picked a phone and had dial tone, it would be there 24/7. Yeah. And that's
where we have to be. And even as a good analogy, for you and I, we should not even know that how that phone call is being connected or where it's being put across to.
Indeed. Business transformation is going along hand in hand with technology transformation, and the emergence of the virtualized network shows that many operators are obviously lacking in some of the skill sets that are necessary to manage the transformation both speedily and efficiently. Do you think, and I suppose this will depend upon the tier, whether you're a tier 1, 2 or 3 player, but do you think that there is a lack of specialists or new blood within these organisations that needs to be brought in to ensure this process, this network transformation, takes place properly? Are they there now, and is their presence being felt, do you think?
I guess if we take a step back and look at our own individual companies, or as a carrier look at what we have in-house, we certainly do have core skill sets that work well to networking, work well to security and admin, IT admin, and we have people that can actually turn up services on a virtualization platform. And I think we can certainly maybe look forward and get to the delivery of NFV by upskilling those people. And I guess my concern from an industry perspective is that there's a lot of focus into the open source, and into the open source then you're looking at core people that are highly experts, and that knowledge there is going to cost a lot of money to bring in-house to a tier 1, for example, and they can afford to do that. But for a small carrier even here in Ireland, I don't believe we can afford to they can't afford to bring those skill sets in. So for me, that transformation we have to now look back to academia and look about how the kids going into colleges today and what skill sets they come out with. Certainly it will help to maintain the future for NFV.
Can I go back to your company, to Cobham Wireless? T&M, test and measurement. Do you actually provide, we're talking about virtualization, is it possible to provide a virtualized T&M environment for NFV?
Absolutely, and it's a challenge that we faced, how we say, in 2010, for example, when we, as a company, began to look at how we can actually scale our product. We realized back then that a proprietary hardware system was not going to get us there, and we had to look at how virtualization was going to bring us there. So we have been in this process, and what you know, from us being innovators there, what we're seeing now is a lot of the, how do you say, the challenges we faced have now been made public, and it's enabling more people to go virtualized. So from a test and measurement perspective, I'd like to think we're definitely there. And as one of the things we're doing here today is actually showing how test and measurement can lower the costs for carriers by using maybe some of the open source MANO stacks that we see out there. So in terms of test and measurement, I do also believe is that the idea, if a carrier no longer wants these proprietary hardware solutions in their environments, how as us as a vendor can you cannot start bringing proprietary hardware. You have to fit into their framework and ecosystem. So it's validation for what we've been doing really for the last 4 years.
Well, you're in a good place.
Yes, like think.
You hope, yes. I'm sure you are. Let's finish by going round and completing the circle. It's been said, Mark, that network transformation and virtualization is pretty much akin to building a plane while not actually flying it. You know, where's the tail, where's the wings, why isn't that working, that sort of thing. Back in 2013, this company, TelecomTV, we conducted a survey among service providers, operators and vendors, asking them when they thought NFV would be available as a commercial service. And they said it would take 2 or 3 years, and we covered that off in the first question. They said it would be 2 or 3 years before we would see virtualization in carrier networks. Now, we're getting towards the end of February 2016. I'm asking you the same question now. What estimate do you give for the time when we will see, not ubiquitous, because it's not going to happen all at once, and operators and service providers are beginning from different parts of the path. Some are further along it than others. But what sort of estimate would you give on us seeing virtualization in carrier networks?
Yeah, this is a view into the future, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
If we even take a step back into last year and look at all the transformation that's been happening to carriers, and if you look at the bigger carriers and how they've outlined where they want to be and what functions they want to virtualize, you know, the investments happened are at a corporate level quite high up. Now is the push this year. But I think we still have some time to go before we actually truly hear about those success stories. And I would actually think the alignment with the open source communities, the alignment within the vendor community, that, you know, I'd be positive to believe that 2016 we will hear a lot of, at the end of 2016 we'll hear a lot of success stories. And I think that will be the inspiration for a lot more people to invest in NFV. And certainly in 2017 we should see, and hopefully people believe, that we're there.
We shall see. We're both around to see it. Interesting stuff. Mark, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Martyn.